the future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
When LeBron James decides he's retiring, it is coming with trumpets blaring, Adam Silver by his side, and he is going on a state-by-state, coast-to-coast tour so that everyone can acknowledge how great he was and give him a parting gift and thank him for his amazing contributions to the NBA.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
The play is Our Fam. You don't know about Our Fam? Go look her up on social media. Go look at YouTube. 19-year-old from Spain, 6'6", block shots, runs the floor, rebounds, post up, inside, outside, pop the corn, serve the beer, and it can clean up the mess when you're done eating your meal. This lady is absolutely fantastic.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on Sport.
Hey everybody, welcome in. This is In-Game Live Game Day here on SportsGrid, and just as you had us in this time slot last night, let's run it back. Let's do it again. Happy New Year, everyone. 2026 is now here, and boy, we've had some interesting college football today. I don't know about the most entertaining college football, but I'll tell you what, as we wait for our final college football playoff semi-finalist to come to fruition in the next few hours, maybe, just maybe, Brady Kannon, the entertaining game today was waiting for us. I hope so. I am Adam Kaufman. The Sugar Bowl is upon us, starting momentarily, of course, in Louisiana at the Superdome with a heavily favored, touchdown to hook favorite, as a matter of fact, in some spots. Actually, it's come down a bit. So anywhere between 6.5, as I look at it now. We have Georgia against Ole Miss, couple of 12-1 teams. Brady, let's get into this a little deeper than we did last night, obviously, as we get ready to look for all sorts of in-game live betting opportunities. Before this thing kicks off, where are you putting your money?
Well, I'm with the Georgia Bulldogs, and I have them as a second half of a money line parlay. I have one leg in successfully with the Indiana Hoosiers. A dominant performance. This team just continues to do what they do. You know, Indiana football school, right? I mean, it's really a great story. Maybe the best story in college football for the last couple of years anyway. But hopefully, like you say, maybe we get bookend entertaining games. I thought last night Miami and Ohio State was thrilling. And with the underdog coming through there and that defensive effort, you know, I really liked Miami and their defensive effort against Texas A&M. A lot of people thought that game was a real dud, but I really enjoyed watching the Hurricanes play defense. And they really just picked up right where they left off last night, dominated that offensive line for Ohio State. The pass rush was great. That team is really fun for me anyway to watch play defense. Yeah, you know, very lackluster. I mean, 3 points between the last 2 games as far as the losing side. Alabama, you know, very lackluster. And boy, the Texas Tech offense. I mean, it was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Oregon was impressive as well. You know, Tosh Lupoy went to the same high school as I did, and he'll be taking over the Cal Bears. Justin Watkins, I believe his name was. I could never remember his name properly. The coach that had been there for about 9 or 10 years. Also a defensive-minded guy. And now Lupoy comes in, the defensive coordinator for Oregon, and boy, off to a great showing here in front of the national audience, pitching a shutout there over the Red Raiders. I think we should get some points in this one anyway. Ole Miss may have the best offense, or at least the most explosive offense of any of the teams we've seen so far in these quarterfinal rounds. So we'll see. But yeah, I like the Bulldogs. We talked about it, Adam, on yesterday's show as well. The beginning of the season, maybe first 2/3 of the season or so, that defense wasn't the same Georgia defense that we were used to in years past. And, granted, they had lost a number of players to the NFL. And now the last 4 games, they've really picked it up on the defensive end, allowing 10 or fewer points in their last 4 games. And I think it'll be a little bit too much for Ole Miss to handle. Offensively, Georgia, the second best team in the country in the red zone. So, when they get down there, they put touchdowns on the board and tend to not settle for field goals. And I think that's what it will take to get past this Ole Miss offense. I think the defense will be able to do the job. Georgia scores touchdowns. I can see this one winning, but I can see them winning this one by 10 points.
So it sounds like you would lean over the 53.5 then.
I'm not so sure I would. If they suffocate Ole Miss, you know how it is. You got to have both parties contribute for a game to go over the total, typically. What are we looking at here? 55.5. And it looks like it's come down a little bit. I think I would kind of agree with that move. I'm seeing 53.5 here on the screen in front of me. I'd love to have 55.5 and bet the under, but no play for me at that number. But I think it could be a one-sided affair like we've seen so far, 23-0 and 38-3. I hope it's not that lopsided, but that would have me leaning towards the under, because I think one team will be responsible for most of the scoring, and that being Georgia.
I've definitely seen people approach this game in different ways. A lot of people rather comfortably laying it with the Bulldogs, as you were just talking about, and that is the side that I would tend to be on as well. And obviously shop these things around, find the -6 as opposed to the 6.5 if that's available to you on a book that you've got in your area. But beyond that, if you didn't want to lay the number, if you weren't so confident about Georgia winning the thing going away, maybe a 10-point final, as you said, how would you feel about going over on Georgia's team total? It's sitting at 30.5. So it's not obviously the most appetizing number, but do you think we see that level of offense?
That's a tough one, man. It just doesn't seem to equate to Georgia, does it? Over 30.5. That's what the spread and everything is telling us. I mean, what is the spread telling us versus the total? 30-23? Is that what it's saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd play under that, Adam. I see more like, I think I'd be more inclined to say this is a 27-20, 27-17 type ball game here. I don't know if we get this thing, into the 55 neighborhood. If this goes over the total, yeah, I think Georgia goes over the total as well. But, as I mentioned, I kind of lean towards the under. I could see 27-17-ish kind of being your final.
Why don't we look back while we're waiting for this one to kick off at some of those games that we got earlier today? Now, as you mentioned, we can look back at last night as well, which of the 3 so far in the quarterfinal round, definitely the most entertaining and the least lopsided, but focusing in on specifically these New Year's Day games first. We had the one upset. I know it was essentially a pick'em, but Oregon absolutely blowing doors in that contest. 23-0. Texas Tech was a 1.5 favorite as that game was kicking off. And of course, its season's over, 12-2, Oregon advancing 13-1. And this thing, it was, is methodical the right word for it? It was sort of slow going for a while. Obviously, the total was rather rapidly coming down because we didn't get any first half touchdowns. It was 3 points in the first, another field goal in that second quarter, 6-0. Oregon was leading at the break. So it was interesting for a while. I was going to use the word entertaining. It definitely wasn't entertaining. It was not easy on the eyeballs, but it was a game that was, in question for quite some time into that third quarter before we got that first touchdown out of Oregon. It was okay. Now you're down by multiple scores, and what does it look like for Texas Tech to come back? And like you said, 3-and-out, 3-and-out, 3-and-out. Red Raiders just never got anything going. Wasn't this dramatic showing by any stretch, though, out of what is fully capable of being a prolific Oregon offense. You had the quarterback Dante Moore go for 234 passing, no touchdowns. He had the one interception as well. It was Jordan Davison. He ran for 2 scores, but only 42 yards and only 2.8 per carry. So, again, spread the ball around like crazy. There were upwards of, 10, 12 guys that caught balls in this one on the Oregon side. It was just kind of one of those. I'd have to look at the actual time of possession. I'll pull that up real quick right here.
Probably pretty heavily in favor of Oregon.
38-22. So,
yeah, it seemed like Texas Tech only sustained one drive, and that ended up in an interception in the end zone. I mean, they were really just pathetic. For a game that, like you said, was essentially a pick 'em as far as the spread, to get it shut out 23-0. That was really embarrassing. Couple things. I think the Oregon defense was really impressive. The story coming in was, I think, the balance of Texas Tech and that defensive line. And that defense for Texas Tech was extremely impressive for basically half the game. And I thought they had Oregon right where they wanted them, basically being dominated, but only down 6-0 at half. And then it just continued in the second half. And I think a lot of that probably had to do with the fatigue on the defensive side of the ball for the Red Raiders, because the offense just couldn't sustain a drive.
All right, we'll keep talking some college football. We will, of course, mix in plenty of NFL, looking ahead to Saturday, Sunday, Week 18, some NBA, NHL, and college hoops games in progress as well. Stay with us, IGL Game Day, here on The Grid.
The champagne pops. The clock strikes 12. But New Year's isn't won at midnight. It's won on the gridiron. Every snap, every number, every edge that matters. Don't just watch the ball drop. Watch the odds drop. College football playoff coverage. Live lines. Smart analysis. All New Year's Day. Only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at he's angry. He wants to play. Doesn't like what they're doing here. It's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there.
Like,
I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
In-game live game day here on the Grid, back with Brady. I am Adam. The Sugar Bowl has kicked off. We're just a couple minutes in. Ole Miss and Georgia. Keep you posted, obviously, on what's happening there as we look for in-game betting opportunities to try and make you some money, hopefully, along the way. We were chatting about Oregon shutting out Texas Tech as dogs, albeit slight dogs, point and a half, but winning outright to advance here in the Orange Bowl. Again, the 23-0 win. And the college football playoff continuing to get a little more clarity. We know we are going to see now Oregon against Indiana. We'll get into more with the Hoosiers in a bit. And, of course, it's Miami waiting for the winner of this game between Georgia and Ole Miss for the Fiesta Bowl coming up 1 week from today. And then it'll be the Peach Bowl 1 week from tomorrow in that other matchup. But let's talk a little bit about Indiana and Alabama. Now, we got into this one last night, Brady, and, you know, I have been high on Indiana really the last couple of years, just in general, under Cignetti, and obviously we saw the great season last year, but that much better this year, to where we're talking about a team that at the moment is sitting as the favorite to win the national championship, surpassing even Ohio State. Now, this team, you know, with the the 14-0 record so far, obviously Alabama with its season over at 11-4. What I'm most curious about, before we even get into, you know, praising Indiana and what to expect going forward with the other giant favorite now out of the tournament off of that loss to the Hurricanes, you have been kind of unlike me. We've been on opposite sides of this. You've been a supporter of DeBoer, of Simpson, a believer in Alabama, and I've been skeptical all year. We've been doing these shows every single week, and anytime we're talking about Bama, going, I don't really see it this year. I was honestly surprised that, not, you know, record-wise or anything like that, but just as the season was moving along, I didn't think the college football playoff was even in Alabama's future. Crimson Tide get there, and then today, utterly embarrassed in an incredibly lopsided game, really, from the entire second quarter on. What did you make of Alabama's performance in this one today?
Well, you know, I think it's kind of been what we are used to seeing out of Alabama on occasion during this entire season. They never really had a rushing attack. I mean, it really started with week 1 when they lost to Florida State. And that was shocking to everybody. And they rebounded. And like mid-season, they had some great wins, you know, over big time teams, you know, good wins over Tennessee, Auburn, you know, good, you know, solid opponents in the SEC that they went on a run against. And then they lost to Oklahoma. And that was seemingly kind of the beginning of the end. Beating Oklahoma, you know, getting their revenge later, you know, to move on in the playoff and what have you. That was a big victory, and you thought maybe okay. And I thought the spread was a good number. You know, I liked Indiana. I didn't expect them to win by 35 points. I don't know if anybody did. But I thought Alabama might stay within double digits. But it's that running game, that lack of a running game, I think, was maybe their biggest Achilles heel. Their offensive line was getting torched today by Indiana. This is seemingly the worst version of the Alabama Crimson Tide that I can remember in a long time. And I do believe Kalen DeBoer is a very good coach. You know, if you don't have the horses, it can be difficult. But they certainly had some horses. They have NFL bodies on that team. Just, you know, it wasn't, I don't think, the typical Alabama teams that we're used to at the line of scrimmage, and certainly in the backfield. And the line of scrimmage, you can argue, is the most important part of the game. And you know, and it's nice to have some of those Alabama running backs we're used to, like, you know, Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram and, you know, yada, 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 Najee Harris. So we didn't have that this year. And I believe that was really their undoing. They were a good team, had some good wins. Inconsistency, the lack of the, you know, running game, I think, was probably ultimately their undoing.
Indiana controlled the yards in dramatic fashion. 407 to 193. The first downs doubled up 22 to 11 here in this one. You saw a good distribution, 192 passing out of the Heisman winner Mendoza, 215 on the ground as compared to only 23 rushing yards on the Alabama side of things. Not a high penalty game, not a high turnover game. Time of possession, obviously, a bit lopsided, though not as much so as the score might indicate. 34 to 26 in this one. It wasn't that it was this, you know, nobody on Alabama or on Indiana, pardon me, had this incredible statistical game. It was just more so a game that was very much in control the whole way. You know, you had a good, versatile performance out of the pass catchers in this one. You know, a trio of guys that were in the vicinity of 40, 50 yards. Each had touchdowns. Again, the two primary rushers that each scored as well in Black and Hemby, and Mendoza did enough. Did Indiana's performance make you more of a believer maybe in this team's national championship future?
Oh, I was always a believer. I think they're really good. I mean, you look at how efficient they were today. They didn't necessarily, you mentioned, nobody really jumps off the page at having a superstar type performance, but it was all excellent, and nearly perfect. The running backs rushed for nearly 100 yards. Mendoza is almost perfect, 14 of 16 completions with 3 touchdowns. It was just death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? It was methodical. And like you said, there wasn't any outlier stuff. It was just a group effort, a group domination, really, I believe, by this unit. And, Indiana against Miami, that looks like a heck of a game right now, doesn't it? I think Oregon will be a great game. I mean, that defensive performance by Oregon. Now, again, Texas Tech looked absolutely anemic on offense, but that's not what we've seen all year out of this team. I mean, they rolled BYU a couple times late in the season, getting into the 30s as far as points, maybe getting close to 40. I think it was 38 something on one occasion. And BYU's a decent defense. So that was pretty impressive. I'm looking forward to round 2 because so far, the first 2 games today have been underwhelming.
Without a doubt. Georgia and Ole Miss, that game's still scoreless. Only about 5 minutes gone by. Georgia has the ball so far. It's been the Gunnar Stockton show. It had 2 of 3 passes. Team's only rushed. Well, much more on the way, more detail on that drive.
The champagne pops. The clock strikes 12. But New Year's isn't won at midnight. It's won on the gridiron. Every snap, every number, every edge that matters. Don't just watch the ball drop. Watch the odds drop. College football playoff coverage. Live lines. Smart analysis. All New Year's Day. Only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there. Like, I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Ole Miss has the ball now, and again, scoreless with Georgia. About 5 minutes gone by here in the opening quarter of the Sugar Bowl out in Louisiana at the Superdome, and Ole Miss starting with deep in their own end of the field. Just picked up a first down, though, so that's changing just a little bit. 1st and 10 at the Miss 27, and Stockton, 23 passing. Lacey's the leading rusher here, 30 yards for, of course, the road team, quote unquote, if you will, right now. But as we look at the latest line movement in this game, we're still getting the 6.5 points that we were getting pre-flop, Brady. The total, though, is down to 49.5. Now, you had mentioned 55.5, close 53.5. You were still looking under. You like the movement in support of how you were feeling about the game. Now we're seeing 49.5. At what point, does low become too low? And I know there's always a, depending on the score and time into the game and all of these things. But early on, if we're thinking it continues at this rate, and let's say we get to the end of the first quarter, we're scoreless, or maybe it's 3-0 on a particular side, and you're getting a total that's all the way down to low 40s, probably at that point in time. Do you look toward the over? Do you assume the offenses wake up?
Yes. Yeah. I'm thinking 44 or lower. So if we go about 5 or 6 points lower on the total here relatively quickly, I think that's a great opportunity to go over in the in-game market here, because obviously you have a lot of game left here. And we talked about this on Wednesday's show, where we had a lot of early scoring. We were talking about Arizona State and Duke. That was a wild day of scoring yesterday with all, you had Utah and Nebraska with a lot of points on the board very early. And so when something happens, to one end of the spectrum very early in a game, really any game, hockey, baseball, whatever it is, and it moves that total one way drastically in one direction, that typically is a good time to go the other way with your wager in game. So if we continue to see no scoring here, and now we're already down to 47.5, so it continues to tick down. We're not even halfway through the first quarter yet. Ole Miss is facing 1st and 10 on their own 37-yard line. So, and now 2nd and 3. So they're starting to move it a little bit. If Georgia forces a punt, that could be the right time to jump in on the over. Again, I think less than 45, 44, 43, that neighborhood is probably, once we get about 10 points lower than where the closing number was, I think that's the green light at that point.
So that's the total. What about in terms of the spread? Again, Georgia was 6.5 coming in. Now we're looking at 4.5 as Ole Miss puts this drive together here. But is the ideal, if you're a Georgia backer, or, not necessarily pregame, but mentally and waiting for a bye spot, are you rooting on an Ole Miss touchdown here? Would you like to see the Rebels get on the board, and then all of a sudden you're getting Georgia, I don't know, maybe even inside a field goal at that point in time?
Exactly. Yeah, I'd love to see Ole Miss put up a touchdown, get the full 7 points here on the board. And if it does, like you say, go inside of a field goal, if it's Georgia minus 2.5, another green light. So yeah. And now if they score, you might not have the same opportunity we were talking about on the total. But yeah, from a side perspective, Georgia minus 2.5, absolutely. I think that'd be a great spot. It's similar to my betting them on the money line, right? I mean, yep. Laying 2.5 is of course similar to just simply winning the game. Most games are not decided by 1 or 2 points. So I think that would be a buy sign on the Bulldogs for sure.
Ole Miss is into Georgia territory. We're looking at 2nd and 10 at the 39-yard line right now, as that total still sitting at 47.5, and again 4.5 is the spread as we sit at the moment. So for anyone just joining us, the college football playoff bracket, the way it sits right now is we're waiting for one more semifinalist. But again, after what happened between Miami and number 2 Ohio State last night to end 2025, if you will, the 10-point win out of the Hurricanes, and there were a lot of people, including Brady and some of our guests, that believed in the Hurricanes with the points. I don't know about necessarily Miami winning that game, but certainly in taking them with the points, Miami does the unthinkable, wins that game, now waiting for the opponent of this one in what will be the Fiesta Bowl coming up in a week. But Oregon and Indiana on the other side of that bracket, pretty interesting in the Peach Bowl, which is due up 1 week from tomorrow as well. Is Indiana going to go out, be quite as dominant as it has been so far? Hard to say, but Oregon just keeps on finding a way. Thrashed James Madison, obviously, in the opening round, and comfortably prepared the slight favorite at 1-3-0 earlier today. What's that offense going to do with the Hoosiers waiting on the other side? We'll get into more college football. Cav Farrar joins us next.
The champagne pops. The clock strikes 12. But New Year's isn't won at midnight. It's won on the gridiron. Every snap, every number, every edge that matters. Don't just watch the ball drop. Watch the odds drop. College football playoff coverage. Live lines. Smart analysis. All New Year's Day. Only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at it, he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there? Like, I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Ole Miss on the board, a field goal, so it's 3-0 leading, and Georgia will get the ball here once again. 5:47 to go in the opening quarter at the Sugar Bowl College Football Playoff quarterfinal game. So latest odds as we sit right now, it's back to 5.5 with Georgia being the favorite, again, getting the ball here, and the total still sitting at 47.5. With Brady, Adam here, and bringing in our first guest of the program, Cab Farrar, who no doubt has been burning a hole in the couch watching games throughout this New Year's Day, be it college hoops. I know no top 25 teams in action today. We can get to some college basketball, some interesting games on the docket, obviously, for Friday, but college football mainly here, Cab. How you doing? Happy New Year.
Oh, thanks, man. Happy New Year to you guys, too, and everybody tuning in, man. How about if you like points, you haven't been enjoying these playoff football games much, right? Because we've seen a lot of defense. A lot of really good defense. Oregon, outstanding defense. Even Tech, I mean, I know they gave up, 24 or 23 at the end of it, but the defense still played great. They're on the field the entire time. What can you do? Indiana's defense only giving up 3 points to Alabama. Miami's defense showing up. Goodness, it's defense. So if you like defense, happy 2026.
Yeah, and that's not great for NBA fans, but certainly good for college football fans, that's for sure. Cab, what did you have in mind with this game that's going on right now? Of course, Ole Miss gets a field goal there, a nice long one, successful from 50-plus yards to take a 3-0 lead here. But what was your handicap coming in, and what do you have as far as a play in this game?
It's kind of ironic that you just asked me that, because I am on the over in this one. And we're only sitting here with 3 points early right now, 5 minutes, 47 seconds left in that first quarter. I watched this first game, and Ole Miss already has more stops than they got the entire first time they played Georgia, right? Ole Miss couldn't get off the field in the first game. I know they were up by 9 points going into that fourth quarter. So they were playing a really good football game. But the thing is they could not stop Georgia in the trenches. Georgia was just running up and down the field, beating them up at the offensive line and defensive line. And I think we're going to see more of that at some point. My big question for Ole Miss is tempo, right? Are we going to keep the same tempo without Kiffin? How big of a difference is that going to play? I don't think I got a good grasp on how this offense is going to function with the Tulane game because, right away at that game, we saw Tulane down by 14 points. It was never a close football game. this is going to be a very different situation here. So I'm interested to see how Ole Miss responds in a tough situation. A 4th and 1, at the Georgia 45. What are they going to do? Are they going to keep the same pace? So far, so good. It looks like 2nd and 8 here after only a 2-yard gain for Georgia. So maybe we start getting interested in Ole Miss here if they show that their defense is going to play. But right now I'm on the over, guys, and I don't know when I'm going to chase that over. If we see a couple more 4 and outs, I might have to put some more money on it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Brady here was talking earlier about how he leaned under pre-flop, and the fact that we've come down at this point in time. We're getting close to a touchdown, as we sit here now, and the fact that you were pregame on the over. What is that buy point, do you think? Is there a certain number you're looking for?
For me, and this is I think personal to anybody who's betting, every day like we do, guys. But for me, I like if there's a game where I wanted to take an over and I don't get it, if I get, 7 to 10 points, then I jump in. When I actually have money on something, like I just alluded to the term chase, I don't like to chase my bet. So I'm much more hesitant to put down a second or a third bet on a game if I bet it pre-flop. But this is one where, if we get another 4, 5, 6 minutes without more points, I think I might have to get back in on it, because I really do see both of these offenses figuring it out and putting points on the board. I would say 10 points to answer your question. You're going to get regression, not always, but most of the time, these lines are very sharp. There's a reason why we see a basketball line get set at, 234.5, and the game lands on 234 or 235. They're very good at setting these lines. So whether we're talking positive or negative regression, I like the idea of getting in when you get those 10 points.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. And the Ole Miss defense does it again, forces another Georgia punt. The total sits where it has been. It hasn't moved, still 47.5. Ole Miss starts the drive at their own 19-yard line, but Georgia does now move down to a 3.5-point favorite in the live market. Cab, I want to ask you, we have seen lines pop out in some spots for the first semifinal match that has come to fruition, and that, of course, is Oregon and Indiana. The early line we've seen is the Hoosiers favored by 4 or 4.5.
Wow.
Any early opinion? Yeah. Any early opinion on that one?
Well, I was wrong on that earlier. I thought this line would be plus 1.5. I was on here earlier a couple hours ago, and that was my answer when I was asked what I thought the line would be. I said plus 1.5, probably either way. 4 points, 4.5 points. That's a lot. That's got to get me interested in Oregon there. I know that Indiana just shut down Alabama, and I know a lot of people just saw it. Look, Indiana, hats off to them. They're playing outstanding in all facets of the football game. Right down to the little things, not having false starts, not creating negative yards on offense. The whole program is running smoothly. So hats off to Indiana, but 4.5, that's a little much. Anything over a field goal, I got to be interested in the other side.
We have 5 teams left right now. Of course, it'll be 4 at the end of this one here coming up in a couple hours. But looking at the updated national championship odds, with Ohio State out of this tournament now, Indiana is the decisive favorite, right around plus 150. And then beyond that, Georgia plus 350, Oregon plus 370, Miami plus 440. So all inside of 5-1. And then you have Ole Miss, who's obviously looking to shock the football world here on this Thursday evening at 13-1. But, if you didn't have an investment, I don't know that you do, pre-tournament or somewhere along the way here in this college football playoff, if you wanted to get involved come the Final Four, where would you go?
Go Canes, baby. I love the question. I got to say go Canes, okay? I mean, I think they're going to continue to be an underdog. We saw them as an underdog against A&M. We saw them as an underdog against Ohio State. I think they continue to play the underdog role, and I think they continue to upset. This is a Hurricanes team that we saw, 4 or 5 weeks into the season. A lot of people were echoing saying this is the number one team. This is the best team. Beck looked good. Obviously Ruben Bain and this defensive line is just outstanding what they're doing. Fletcher in the backfield's really starting to look like a big NFL running back. I mean, he's starting to show the difference between, him and some of the other backs that were getting some of the carries throughout the season for Miami. And I think this team is going to continue to be an underdog, and I think they're going to continue to win, not just cover spreads, guys. So I'd put that 450 on Miami right now.
I know we've got you for another segment, Cab. We can get into the bowl games coming up on Friday. It will round out the bowl season. Obviously, we'll have the college football playoff for the next couple of weeks, but the bowl season does end with 4 games on the schedule for Friday. And I'll start with Rice and Texas State. A lot of players not on the field for the Owls. Texas State, a heavy favorite here, and they've seen some steam as well. They were 13.5 or 14-point favorites. When I looked earlier today, it was up to 16. Are you part of the effort there that's backing the Bobcats tomorrow?
You know, I think that this is not a very direct answer to your question. I'm sorry about that. But for me, it's with these bowl games, you're really looking at the market, because what you said, we don't know who's on the field, right? And once you start to see, X, Y, and Z, quarterback, centers out, receivers out, second receivers out, running backs out, now you got a whole new offense, an entirely new team on the field. So to me, the market is the only place to cap these bowl games. And I'm not a huge market person. I always pay attention to it, but I also like to cap what I see, what I watch. So I did not bet this Rice Texas State game. But yeah, I'd go with the market. That's the answer to your question. I'd follow the market. I'd go with Texas State.
As Brady noted, there are a few others we can delve into that are on the way for tomorrow as well. And then, of course, it's all eyes on the college football playoff semifinals as that approaches, again, a week. But much more with Cab Farrar when we return. We can talk about the other bowl games as well as maybe some college hoops. It's all in front of us. Hang with us. IGL Game Day continues here on SportsGrid.
The champagne pops. The clock strikes 12. But New Year's isn't won at midnight. It's won on the gridiron. Every snap, every number, every edge that matters. Don't just watch the ball drop. Watch the odds drop. College football playoff coverage. Live lines. Smart analysis. All New Year's Day. Only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there? Like, I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Back here, Cab Farrar joining us, talking through some college football. If we have time, we'll get to some other things as well. And Brady was just asking you, Cab, about some of the bowl games that we have tomorrow. Because remember, maybe the day after New Year's Day, and it's not a college football playoff game, but it's still bowl season here, and we've got a few more. Although, just to further show how out of whack and out of touch these bowl games are, Brady was just asking you about Rice and Texas State, the Armed Forces Bowl. Meanwhile, an Armed Forces Naval Academy is not even involved They're playing in the Liberty Bowl against Cincinnati here. Navy is a 7-point favorite. There is 7 in the hook in some spots. I'm not so sure people would be chasing that unless obviously you wanted to get involved on the dog. But to get Navy at -7, push protection, but even still, at least you're dealing with a key number there and not having to go beyond that. We were just getting into all of the reasons to maybe, as you put it, tiptoe around bowl season because of all the giant question marks, the unknowns. But in this case, do you feel that way about Navy?
It's one of those things with the service academies where you're not going to have 15 players that are opting out. You might have 1 or 2 maybe, and you're probably not even going to get that. Honestly, it's usually the entire starting team, offense, defense, special teams. Everybody's on the field. At 7, it's getting up there, like you said, and at 7.5, you almost got to start looking at Cincinnati. But there is still a way to bet it outside of just going for a side, and I think that could be the Cincinnati team total under. Obviously, Navy's going to try and stay on the field with their offense as long as they can. I think this total too, sitting at 55.5, I'd probably go under for the full game. Now I know that Navy's not, you're as typical of a academy team. They're putting up 26 points per game I got here. But like I said, if they're winning this football game and covering the spread, I think they slow it down quite a bit. And maybe you get a backdoor cover from Cincinnati, but I do think Navy wins the football game, and I think it goes under. So maybe a Cincinnati team total under.
Yeah, that number does seem pretty high. And you talk about what Navy typically averages, but you how it is. You expect them to be rushing the football all day long, and that's going to make that clock keep ticking. Ole Miss goes up in front now, 6-0, with yet another field goal of better than 50 yards. So the kicker, the star for the Rebels right now, with a 6-0 lead over Georgia. This could be maybe one of the most entertaining bowl games of the day tomorrow, Cab, and not your usual suspects. Wake Forest and Mississippi State. Neither one of these teams have been in a bowl game, since 2022. But they're both pretty decent squads. They can both score the football. I kind of lean a little bit with the Bulldogs here, who played some really good games against good teams this year. Took Texas to overtime, took Tennessee to overtime, beat Arizona State. They're a 3-point favorite here against the Demon Deacons. What do you think?
Yeah, Mississippi State was one of those teams all year, like you said, where, they should have won that game against Texas. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. They didn't. They choked it off. But, they were ranked going into SEC play. And then they just, couldn't get over the hump in the SEC up until that game against Arkansas, which, Arkansas, again, another one of those teams with not many wins to show for, but an offense that was putting up 30-plus points on absolutely everybody that they played. I think there's points in this one. As much as I've been saying under, and you hear me almost under on everything, I think there's points in this one. And the fact that the total is around 53.5 instead of at that 55.5 mark kind of makes me want to get in on the over. And I agree with you. Mississippi State, a lot of people might look at this and say, oh, an 8-4 team's, getting 3 points. What are we missing here? Well, you're missing the fact that this is a Mississippi State team that's not losing a ton of production. They're not completely getting gutted like we talk about in the transfer portal, and they want to win. They haven't been in a bowl game in forever. This means something to the program, means something to the team, which that's everything. When we're talking about bowl games, you got to find a reason for a team to be playing. If they're happy to be there, they're going to play. If they're one of the teams that had expectations of going to the playoffs or bust, and it's a bust, these teams don't care, and they're not putting anything out on the field you want to be betting on. So I agree with you here. I'd go Mississippi State Bulldogs, and I'd probably take the over in this one.
So from the Duke's Mayo Bowl to, of course, the Trust and Will Holiday Bowl, this one is interesting in that it's pretty damn close to a pick'em. We're looking at a 1.5-point line between the number 17 team in the country, Arizona, slight favorite against SMU, Cab. But really, at that point, when you're looking at a line like that, you may as well look over to the money line where you're getting pretty close to minus 110 aside, and may even be there by the time kickoff actually rolls around as we sit a little inside 24 hours from now. Where would you go in this one?
Man, I hate to keep saying it, over. I'd go over in this one too, guys. I don't think there's going to be much of defense on the field for either of these teams here. Arizona only gave up 18 points per game this season, but I'm going to be honest here. The Big 12 is not a good program. They're a good conference. Excuse me. This is not elite offenses that they were going against here. Or ACC. Also, same thing with Big 12. Both these teams come out of programs that I'm not very happy with. I'm stumbling on my words here. I would go over here if I was betting this one. As far as the side goes, I'd stay away from it, or I would take SMU. This is telling you everything you need to know about the fact you're seeing a team that's ranked as the underdog going into this game.
All right, Cab, we've talked about bowl games where it's hard to figure out who's playing, who's transferring, who's opting out, this and that and the other. It's real simple to figure out Week 18 in the NFL, though, right? Who's your favorite play of any on the board for a wacky week in the league that they play on Sundays?
You know, again, this is almost, I hate to say it, but this is almost like the same thing as bowl. You got bowl games nowadays with this last week of the NFL. You've got to figure out who cares, what they're playing for, and what they, what's going on the field, because a lot of these teams, they're ready to pack it in. They're ready to go home. If I'm going anywhere, guys, favorite on the board, it's the under in the Seahawks 49ers game. You're seeing a 47.5 on the board there. I really think this is going to be one of those things where both of these teams are happy to get off the field and get out of the game. So I would go under in the Seahawks 49ers game if I'm giving you one bet for the NFL.
Less than 30 seconds. Who do you think wins that game?
Seahawks on the road. -1.5. Give me the Seahawks on the road. I'll take them.
Tough spot. Interesting game. Definitely one that Brady and I will spend more time on coming up. But professional handicapper Cab Farrar joining us here on Game Live Game Day. Cab, thanks again, man. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely.
The champagne pops. The clock strikes 12. But New Year's isn't won at midnight. It's won on the gridiron. Every snap, every number, every edge that matters. Don't just watch the ball drop. Watch the odds drop. College football playoff coverage. Live lines. Smart analysis. All New Year's Day. Only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at it, he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there? Like, I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Thanks again to Cab Farrar. And once again, monitoring the Sugar Bowl. We are into the second quarter, and it is Ole Miss up on Georgia 6-0. Now, in terms of the live line, the Bulldogs have just moved back to 6.5, where they were pregame, despite this 6-0 lead on the other side, because they are putting a drive together. The total has jumped back to 47.5. As far as where Georgia is, new set of downs, 1st and 10 at the Ole Miss 28. So we had mentioned earlier, Brady, if that line dropped down to 2.5, felt like a buy spot. It did ever so briefly, and now in the red zone, 1st and 10 on the Ole Miss 12. After Frazier ran for 16, he's up to 50 rushing yards already very early, 1 minute, not even, into this second quarter. Feels like points are coming in a big way here, and maybe a Georgia lead is right around the corner.
Yeah, and that's what Cab Farrar was hoping for is, a turn of the tides here and getting some points on the board. And I think you're right. We could be headed that direction. I think that's a great indicator that the rushing attack there for Georgia, you've already got 50 yards for one of their stars in the backfield there. That's a great start. Now we have a touchdown. They are in the end zone. So it's a tie game, 6 apiece, extra point pending for Georgia to take a 1-point lead. The odds makers were already on top of it. The no change in the live market here. It's still 6.5 in favor of the Bulldogs. Basically a tie game. If the extra point is good, obviously they'll have a 1-point lead, but it makes sense that we're right back to where we started with the Bulldogs as a 6.5-point favorite. And now it flips to 7.5 as that extra point is up and good. So maybe an opportunity to jump in on Ole Miss if you want to take 7 and a hook. That's not where I'm going because I think Georgia's going to win the game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they covered. But it is kind of interesting that it flips from 6.5 to 7.5 just with the addition of an extra point. And your total back right where we were, nearly prior to kickoff as well, now at 52.5. So, it took an entire quarter, but we're kind of back to where we started here, Adam.
It was a 12-yard run by Gunnar Stockton to score that touchdown. As Brady said, now we're looking at a 7-6 advantage for the Bulldogs. And as you said, 52.5 on that total. The lowest I saw it during our chat with Cab was 46.5. So didn't quite get to that point where it was going to become a buy spot for you, as you outlined earlier. You said you wanted 44.5, maybe even 45.5. Obviously, Cab was looking for something similar to, as he put it, maybe chase his bet, but probably feeling a lot better now about this over, at least trending back in that right direction. 13 points, essentially a quarter in. It'll be Ole Miss getting the ball back. What I wonder now, though, is if Georgia is able to slow this thing down. I know Ole Miss has put a couple of drives together, but it's sort of that bend but don't break defense, as we talk about sometimes. A couple of long field goals, and Georgia, ultimately not letting Ole Miss even sniff the red zone. If that continues here for another couple of drives where maybe there aren't even those field goals and we're sitting on 7-6 for a little bit, or even if Georgia scores another one and, then you're back in position to cover and all of that. I don't think we're that far away from the total potentially plummeting again. I wouldn't be at all surprised if 52.5, 53.5 is a high point. We start to swing back the other way.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Adam. And this is kind of playing out, at least right now, maybe the way we thought it would. We talked about Georgia's defense really coming around, having shown up admirably in the last 4 contests. And it looks like they're at it again. Ole Miss, let's hats off to them. They've kicked a couple of wonderful field goals. I think it was a 54-yarder and a 52-yarder. That's very impressive with this type of pressure cooker situation. These young kids kicking a ball that far under those circumstances. So good for them to put those 6 points on the board. But that Georgia defense, that's exactly what they want to do. We're not letting you get inside of our 38-yard line. You can kick field goals all day long. We talked about how good Georgia is in the red zone. Their first trip in there, what do? They turn it into a touchdown. So I think this is exactly the way Kirby Smart and company like this thing playing out right now. We'll hold you to field goals. We'll score touchdowns, and we'll come away with a win here and find ourselves in the semifinals.
6.5 is that live spread now. So it has come off the 7.5, and we're looking at -132 to the cover and even money on Ole Miss with the points the other way. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this, obviously, and let you know what direction things are trending. If you did want to jump in on Ole Miss, +250 on the money line, if depending on that level of conviction. But on the one hand, Brady, part of me says, I just can't get there. But the other side says, there's just no way I thought Ohio State was going to lose to Miami. And they were hardly even competitive. Moved along. You never quite know. Not that Georgia is created equal. We will see. We'll wind up after this one. Much more on the way. Stay with us.
The champagne pops. The clock strikes 12. But New Year's isn't won at midnight. It's won on the gridiron. Every snap, every number, every edge that matters. Don't just watch the ball drop. Watch the odds drop. College football playoff coverage. Live lines. Smart analysis. All New Year's Day. Only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, you look at it, he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there. Like, I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Ole Miss making things interesting here, Brady. We got that line back down to 4.5 here because the Rebels are putting a drive together just like that. Right after Georgia scores a touchdown, we have now got Ole Miss all the way down to the 25-yard line for the Bulldogs after a 39-yard pickup out of Stribling. And so, once again, Ole Miss in field goal range. We had talked about trying to avoid that. Already 2 in and maybe a third on the way or more, but it feels like, anyway, 3 minutes gone by in this second quarter that we may see the Rebels retake the lead.
Yeah, this would be, just fine for Georgia if they can hold them to another field goal and Ole Miss puts 3 points up on the board. I don't think the Bulldogs have any problem with that. Obviously, they don't want to allow any points, but again, if they're just making Ole Miss settle for field goals the rest of the night, I think Georgia's perfectly fine with that. And now down to 3.5 in the live market. First and goal, by the way. Wow, this is impressive. We talked about it in the open and previewing this game. I felt Ole Miss was probably the most dangerous offense that we had left in the playoff, maybe the most electrifying offense, with the big play capability. And that's what we're seeing right now against a Georgia defense that has been much improved the last month or two. And now first and goal from the 5-yard line of the Georgia Bulldogs. And Georgia moves down now to a 3.5-point favorite. The total up to 53.5, where it was at kickoff here before this game got underway. And we've still got about 11 minutes left in the second half. So again, overbackers, I think, showing some signs of life here, Adam.
Yeah, just as I went on my diatribe of how I think it's going to slow down, obviously that's looking foolish. We're still, I said 52.5, 53.5. Felt like a high point. We're still at 53.5, and that is baked in to the fact that we think we're going to get a touchdown here because, as you said, first and goal at the 8-yard line. It makes you wonder what's coming back the other way. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe this is just going to be one of those back and forth affairs, kind of like we were talking about with those games that we were tracking yesterday where everything went north of 60.
Yeah, that was crazy on Wednesday. I mean, gosh, nobody was playing defense on Wednesday, and then it's been all defense here in the playoffs. Now, 3rd and goal. So Georgia is hanging tough here in the red zone on defense. Now at the 10.5-minute mark of the second quarter, the lines come off the board here as far as the live action. I don't know if they punched it in for a touchdown. It must have done something, because now Georgia is down to a 2.5-point favorite. Sure enough, Ole Miss in the end zone with a touchdown. 12-7 now. They lead, extra point pending, but Georgia remains the favorite in the live market. Pretty interesting. -2.5 is the number. 56.5 now your live total, Adam. And again, overbackers looking like they had a torn ticket in the first quarter are completely back in this thing.
We rarely, obviously, Brady, talk about props in these games, in large part because there are a lot of markets that those are just unavailable, and so don't want to dive too heavily into things that people can't bet here on these shows. The passing touchdown, by the way, Chambliss to Has, but that's in part where I wanted to go. Chambliss at this point is up to north of 120 passing already. He's 12 of 19, so heavy on the attempts. I mean, pacing for well over 40 passing attempts in this game against Georgia here. They went for 2, by the way, to try and make it a 14-7 lead. Failed on that. So 12-7. So that's slight hit to the overbackers, obviously. 10.5 to go in the second. Are you surprised by, one, the style of attack? I know there have been some chunk gains to elevate that yardage total, but I mean, Chambliss could be a 350-yard passer when all is said and done here, if not more.
Well, and Lacey already to 50 yards rushing, too, matching his counterpart Frazier for the Bulldogs. So doing it both on the ground and through the air are the Rebels of Ole Miss. 50 yards, I mentioned rushing for Lacey. Talked about the passing yards for Chambliss, 120. He's 11 for 18. So, I mean, 18 attempts already. He's really slinging it. Now, if you look across the way at Stockton, he's only attempted 8 passes. It's really been primarily a rushing attack for the Georgia Bulldogs here. Frazier with 50 yards, Stockton with 18 of his own yards from the QB position as well. But, offensively, Ole Miss really looks like the side right now. Georgia having to get it done on defense, and you just hope, if you're Georgia, that you can match wits here and keep the scoring up, because if you can't, it looks like maybe the recipe for Texas Tech earlier today, where their defense eventually became fatigued because the offense couldn't stay on the field. Now, we haven't seen that yet out of Georgia, but I think they need to make an answer here pretty quickly, Adam, because Ole Miss is not having problems so far. They had to settle for the 2 field goals. But, moving it into Georgia territory now, 3 drives in a row and putting points on the board on each occasion.
So one thing I was wrong about, Brady, and look, I get things wrong from time to time. I'm not surprised I was wrong. I'm just surprised I was wrong about this. I assumed when we were looking at, 1st and goal at the 8-yard line and 53.5, that it was just already baked into that live total that we were going to get a touchdown there out of Ole Miss. Not the case, because that touchdown is in, the failed 2-point conversion, and the total right now is 56.5. So makes me wonder if, it was 53.5. I guess maybe we missed a buy point, quite frankly, in terms of the over in this game. And right now we're at 19 points.
Well, I tell you, it has ticked down now to 55.5. I would trust the original move. It's kind of interesting, the flow of this game. We don't get any points, or I guess technically we had 3 points in the first quarter, and then, added another 7 at the very beginning of the second. But basically for the first quarter, we had no points. And you're thinking, okay, this is a good opportunity to jump in on the over. I think the lowest number, you saw 46.5. I think it got to 45.5. And now all of a sudden we've got scoring here in the second quarter, and we're all the way up to 55 or 56.5. So it's been kind of difficult, I believe, from an in-game wagering standpoint. Now, you might have yourself a real nice middle if you took the over 45.5 and you're under 56.5. But, things have been kind of happening in bunches here. And I don't think you've had tremendous opportunity to necessarily dive in and feel great about where you're headed with an in-game wager.
Just peek in on the NBA for a moment. It's a handful of games today, not a lot. Earlier, we had the Rockets slaughter the Nets, won that thing by 24, won every single quarter. You got 23 points out of Amen Thompson. Games that are in progress, bit closer. The Heat are hanging on to a 102-95 advantage in Detroit. Would be a nice upset against the Pistons in a wide-open Eastern Conference if Miami can pull this off. And again, 7-point advantage with about 7 minutes to go in that one. Norman Powell, the former Clipper, 34 points to lead Miami, while Cade Cunningham is probably not going to get to a triple-double, but he is flirting with it, led by 26 points. Sixers and Mavericks, two bad teams that are matching up right now. That is early in the second quarter, and it's a 2-point lead for Philly. Early 9 points out of Tyrese Maxey, 8 on the other side by heralded rookie Cooper Flagg, pardon me. A couple of games later, the Celtics and Kings. That one is about an hour away, and about 20 or so minutes after that, Jazz and Clippers. I am curious at what point, because we don't do a lot of NBA on this show when we're together. It's so heavily football, and football is king, and we'll get to the NFL and Week 18 and all of that. But at what point do you really start to dial in on the NBA? Because I know for a lot of people who are not diehards, it is right around Christmas time.
Yeah, right around this time of year for sure. Well, of course, I've been paying attention. Haven't necessarily made, I don't know if I've made any NBA bets other than just maybe some funny money stuff. It truly is a sport that I don't bet on quite a bit. I did lean towards the under in this Mavericks 76ers game. You know, the Mavericks return home. This is their first game at home after an 0-for-3 road trip. Sometimes that first game at home, you're just trying to get your life back together. And especially after a tough road trip, I didn't exactly expect them to be on fire tonight at home for the Dallas Mavericks.
We'll continue to keep an eye on it, as we are obviously the Sugar Bowl, which continues to be 12-7. Ole Miss is leading the favorite Georgia. Bulldogs are still -2.5, just moved to 4.5, putting that drive together.
The champagne pops. The clock strikes 12. But New Year's isn't won at midnight. It's won on the gridiron. Every snap, every number, every edge that matters. Don't just watch the ball drop. Watch the odds drop. College football playoff coverage. Live lines. Smart analysis. All New Year's Day. Only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at it, he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, eh, George, for him there? Like, I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Back here with Brady, and we thank you for hanging out with us. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Hopefully we prove it along the way. It's in-game live game day. We got you for another couple hours here at this point. And of course, Brady and I will be with you all throughout the weekend, as well as we inch closer and closer to Week 18 in the NFL. Some games that are becoming, I don't know, Brady, maybe just a little bit easier to handicap as we get more clarity in terms of who's in, who's out. Just to update people, by the way, on the Sugar Bowl, 12-7. Georgia is trailing, but out to the Mississippi 27 right now. 3rd and 12 is where things stand. So at the very least, field goal range. Maybe we're looking at a 2-point game coming up here in a moment, if not greater on the part of Georgia, who remains an in-game favorite on this one. And we're about 5 minutes away from halftime as well. But one big piece of information that we got earlier, and I expected...
Big play. 1st and goal down to the Mississippi 1-yard line. Yeah, I just saw the spread jump to 6.5, and I said, what happened? So 1st and
just
goal,
got it on my
4
TV
minutes
as well.
left.
I'm surprised he didn't get in as I'm watching the play unfold here. Yeah, there's the touchdown. So Stockton did get himself in when all was said and done. So first it was Stockton to Jones for 26 yards to pick up that long 3rd and 12, got in, and then Stockton just, saying, I'll do it myself. And so that is going to put us, presumably anyway, at 14-12 after the extra point, pardon me. But we'll see what it does to the in-game movement.
He might go for 2 to go up by 3.
Yeah, it's true. Because you're right.
What does up by 2 do for you versus 1? Not much difference there. I don't know.
I know Ole Miss.
So it's 14-12. Well, they
and so what I was going to say to that end is, like, I know Ole Miss just did that, trying to go up by 2 points and failed on it. I get it. I get the reasoning. I get the logic. I just think, and I think I'm in the minority here because this is just the way it is now. NFL, college football in general, the nerds upstairs, if you will, the advanced analytics and the way the aggressiveness by way teams are managing these games and, in some ways trying to take kickers out of it when you get close or leaning more heavily on the kickers from further out because all these guys got legs now from 50 plus, even in some cases 60 plus. I just think it's early. You don't need to strategically, like, let's try and go up by 3. Let's make this a 7-point game as opposed to a 6-point game. You don't need to do that stuff in the second freaking quarter.
I don't disagree with you. Yeah, I just wondered if he would do it to try and, make it a 3-point margin, which obviously is a field goal. And because there really isn't much difference between being up by 1 or being up by 2. But you're right. We've still got 4 minutes left in the first half. If we had 4 minutes left in the third quarter, yeah, maybe he would adjust his thinking there. But I would agree with you. It's too early.
6.5 on the live line here, Georgia's favored. Now, where it is notable, at least right now, where, as we say, we're inside minutes until halftime, is we told you we thought Georgia minus 2.5 was a buy point when it was there. Well, you're not covering that number right now because, again, it's a 2-point lead, not a 3-point lead. So it all factors in, I suppose, into the conversation, not to say that these coaches give a damn about your in-game bets or pre-flop lines or anything like that. But I was starting to talk about the NFL before we got all that news and fun play out of Georgia there in the offense. One big note of information that was clarified today, even though I expected it, I'm sure you expected it, I think most people expected it. Lamar Jackson is going to play in this winner-take-all game for the AFC North against the Steelers coming up here this weekend in prime time. Now, there's just no part of me that thought that they were going to roll Snoop Huntley out there in that game in, again, a must-win in order to make the playoffs and win that division. Lamar Jackson's back would have had to have been in shambles for him to be unavailable for that contest. I know he didn't play last week, but that wasn't your must-win. This is your must-win. You got to have him out there. Even if you're not using him the same way you typically would, meaning he's running all over the field and he's throwing the ball however many times, you could still coach it the same way, like last week where you're leaning in on Derrick Henry, and that would be just fine. But if Lamar's available to you, you're playing Lamar, and sure enough, he is. And I think the Ravens are going to win this game. As much as I would prefer the Steelers do, because I just think the tournament is more interesting to me, more wide open if you don't have the Ravens in there. Even though some people do disagree, like I think Kurtz was on with us maybe yesterday and was saying that, whoever wins this game, he doesn't think they're doing anything in the playoffs. I'm not sure everybody feels that way. I think there are people that look at Baltimore as a team that could make a run if, in fact, it's in the dance. But how do you view all of this?
Well, first of all, the odds makers are not surprised by the fact that Lamar Jackson's going to play here because the line hasn't even budged. It's still in favor of the Baltimore Ravens here by 3.5, which for me is a little too aggressive on the road in a high leverage primetime spot. Against Mike Tomlin and the Steelers at home, a division game. I think that favors the Pittsburgh Steelers here taking the points, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they won this game outright. It kind of feels like we're handing this game to the Baltimore Ravens because of what we've seen out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hey, let's not forget, this team just beat the Detroit Lions on the road in Detroit. Did the Steelers. Now, that was when they had DK Metcalf, and he ran into a problem there. They don't have him. I kind of feel like I would want to play the Steelers here, Adam, just as a contrarian move, because it seems like everybody is already giving this game to the Ravens. You mentioned George Kurtz, our colleague and friend here. He's got a bet on the Baltimore Ravens to win the division, and he's so confident he's not even going to hedge. I'm like, George, I hope it works out for you, but I'm kind of thinking it won't. I have a feeling the Steelers are going to win this game. And I don't think Baltimore is very good. I agree with what you're saying that either one of these teams is not going to make any noise in the postseason. I don't think either of these teams are very good, but I lean with the Steelers on Sunday night.
Give you a notable trend that definitely supports what you're talking about. Mike Tomlin as head coach of the Steelers against the Ravens when an underdog, 14-4-2 against the spread. So at the very least, keep games awfully close. Again, Ole Miss with the ball here and at its own 30-yard line, down 14-12. Georgia, a 5.5-point favorite in the college football playoff quarterfinal game.
The champagne pops. The clock strikes 12. But New Year's isn't won at midnight. It's won on the gridiron. Every snap, every number, every edge that matters. Don't just watch the ball drop. Watch the odds drop. College football playoff coverage. Live lines. Smart analysis. All New Year's Day. Only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, you look at it, he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there. Like, I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Well, who needs a 3-point lead when you can be up by 9? That's right. It's 21-12 at the Sugar Bowl. Georgia is now leading Ole Miss. The Running Rebels, they had the ball, fumbled it away, and Everett took it back the other way on the scoop and score for the touchdown to go up again, 21-12 in this contest with still 2.5 to go in the opening half here, Brady, and this has done wonders to the in-game lines, depending on what you were invested in. If you got Georgia minus 2.5 or even minus 6.5, well, you're still sitting pretty right now at minus 12.5 on the live line. Meanwhile, that total had dropped down as low as we were saying, right around 46.5. It's up to 62.5 right this minute, and Georgia will be kicking off. Ole Miss will get another crack at it. Again, a 9-point discrepancy between these two teams, and Georgia here is off and running with a 21-point, not only first half output to date, but quarter here in the second.
Yeah, and a 9-point difference from what the closing total was versus the live number right now. You mentioned 62.5. Of course, it closed 53.5. But it's not quite the buy point for me on the under in the in-game betting market, Adam. I would want to see a 10-point differential versus what the opening line was. I'm going to trust the odds makers here. It was 55.5. And we remember that steam came in on the under prior to kickoff here, betting it down to 53.5. I'm going to go with 55.5. If this in-game total gets to 65.5, I think that would be the green light to play this game under. It's going to depend here if Ole Miss can generate anything with a couple minutes left in this first half. If they can put another 3 points on the board, maybe even a touchdown, obviously that total's going to jump at that point, and maybe that's your opportunity to play an in-game under. But I think that's where I would lean here if we get to that 10-point differential from the 55.5 number that we saw much earlier today before that late move on the under came true.
Any part of you interested in plus 540 on the money line for Ole Miss?
Not really. No. I think it's starting to get a little out of hand. That's some really good defensive stands earlier in the game by Georgia. They gave up the one touchdown, but now they get the turnover and score. A lot of things are going their way right now. I'm not sure. I believe they're the better team. That's why they were a 6 or 7 point favorite to begin with. They've beaten Ole Miss earlier this year. It's not looking good right now, I don't think, for the Rebels.
No, it's certainly feeling like we're going to see Georgia advance here in this college football playoff to the semifinal round and sit and wait for Miami on the other side. We were talking about it earlier, just sort of handicapping the hypothetical line between these two teams. What does that look like to you if we do get Georgia advancing? I mean, how lopsided would this be against Miami?
I'm going to say it might be similar to the Indiana-Oregon. That one's at 4 or 4.5. I'm thinking Georgia might be 3.5 over Miami. I'm not good. I am much more adept at coming up with what an NFL line will be rather than college. We'll ask our next guest, Nick Bogdanovich. He's much better at making a college football line than I am. But I would guess that Georgia would be around a field goal favorite over Miami.
Yeah, I'll be curious what he has to say. I mean, I'll tell you, not my area of expertise either. I'm much more comfortable when it comes to the NFL, like you, in that category. But, boy, the first place my head went was like 5.5, 6.5, like much closer to a full touchdown than a field goal. But, I'll be curious, like you said, what Nick has to say when he joins us.
I was kind of basing it off this line. If let's say they're a 7-point favorite against Ole Miss, I think that would probably be at least cut in half against Miami. I think we can all probably agree that Miami looks like a better squad right now than does Ole Miss. So, but I still think Georgia would be favored for sure.
Yeah, and you have to, again, consider the fact that it just knocked off Ohio State. No easy task there for the Hurricanes. So that gets baked into the line as well, obviously. Ole Miss here trying to do something with its last couple minutes or so remaining in the opening half. We are looking at it just to update you here on, well, everything is a little behind on that one screen, on both screens that I've got right now, or maybe they're just still waiting for the kick.
I don't think they've run a play yet. They've got, they have 2nd and 10. 2nd and 10 from their own 25-yard line, 2.5 minutes left to go in the second quarter.
Okay, so we'll continue to keep you posted on that. Meanwhile, the Pistons trying to work a comeback against the Heat. Miami trying to hang on. It's 116-112, about 30 seconds left in regulation in Detroit. Nearing the half, the Sixers up 11 in Dallas. Stay with us.
The champagne pops. The clock strikes 12. But New Year's isn't won at midnight. It's won on the gridiron. Every snap, every number, every edge that matters. Don't just watch the ball drop. Watch the odds drop. College football playoff coverage. Live lines. Smart analysis. All New Year's Day. Only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at it, he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there? Like, I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
We are back here on In-Game Live Game Day. Again, keeping an eye on the Sugar Bowl, where at the moment Georgia is up 21-12 here in this college football playoff quarterfinal game. Ole Miss at the 2-minute timeout of the opening half with the ball, trying to put a drive together, but sitting 3rd and 3 at its own 32-yard line. In-game, we're looking at Georgia minus 11.5, and the total still up over 60, 62.5. It's climbed about 2 touchdowns from where it was at its lowest point. Now, we already had one guest on with us earlier. We have another to come a little bit later, our sandwich guest, if you will. It's not often that we get royalty on the program here, Brady, but we have a sports betting Hall of Famer and a good friend of yours, Nick Bogdanovich, joining us here for the next couple of segments to get into some football and maybe NFL, maybe who knows what else, but we start college football. Nick, Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm doing great, fellas. How about yourself?
Well, it all depends on our wallets, right? You know how this goes.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. In this business, if you pick winners, you're a little happier. And if you don't, you somehow try to muster a smile on your face for your friends and coworkers.
I know that from before the game, or before we hopped on, you were telling us backstage, if you will, that you were on Ole Miss going into this one. I don't presume, not even at halftime, that you've lost hope on that ticket. But when you're sitting at this stage with a loser rooting on a winner, do you look for a way to still profit in game?
You know what? I'm not an in-play guy. It is a revelation that has taken our industry by storm. When it first came on, I don't know however long ago it was, 4, 5, 6 years ago, it was just a tiny piece of the business. Now you talk to people, it's upwards of 35, 40% of your business. So in-play is very, very addictive, I'd say. and contagious. Once you start it, you're on your phone pretty much all night. But I would imagine if you just did that and nothing else, forget about pre-match and just studied in play 24/7, you could probably make a nice living because I'm sure there's plenty of edges in play.
Nick Bogdanovich is our guest and recently has signed on with Boomer's Sportsbook, one of the latest sports books out here in the state of Nevada. And Nick, congratulations on that, the director of trading, chief odds maker for Boomers. Are you seeing a lot of in-game action at Boomers? Is it no different than anywhere else here in town?
Yeah, no question about it. People just gravitate toward it. It's that simple. But yeah, Boomers, let me tell you a little something about Boomers. It's just a little startup company in the state of Nevada only. We're not looking to go into any other states. We got five little properties in the state right now, but we're going to be adding one here, one there. And our goal is to get to 20 by the end of next year. But we put out a nice little product. You can lay $1.05 in the NFL. First sign up bonus, you can get up to $250 in bonus bets, and we put out a real good product. So if you guys are in the state of Nevada, like I said, it's only in the state of Nevada, check us out at Boomers. I think you'll like our product.
What's the process in launching a new sports book in an effort to compete, obviously, with some of the others? I mean, Vegas is just so unique because you have so many options that aren't available, mobile betting wise, across the country. Books that I'm sitting here on the East Coast that I would have no access to, much like I would have no access, obviously, to Boomers out that way. When you're competing with some of the properties that have been around for a while, or even obviously just the craze that exists surrounding mobile betting, what strategy goes into place beyond trying to entice the new users with the sign-up bonuses like we see?
Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, it's a very, very competitive industry. Obviously, out here in the state of Nevada, MGM and Caesars are the biggest. They're huge, and Circa obviously does a great job. I hung my hat there for 3 years, and I love Derek and Mike and the guys. But we're just trying to get a little piece of the pie. We're going to be in Tahoe. We're going to be in Reno. We're in Elko. We're going to Tonopah. We're in North Las Vegas. We're just trying to spread ourselves around the state, get people to sign up on the app, get a little retail business, and get a real, tiny piece of the pie. I don't think we'll ever be going toe to toe with the MGMs and the Caesars of the world. Those are the King Kongs. But we put out a nice little product, fair pricing, and I think we'll get a little piece of the pie.
Nick, let's talk about some games that are happening on Friday. We have the bowl season wrapping up. Of course, the college football playoff will be headed towards the semifinal next week, but we do have 4 games on tap for Friday, and it begins with Rice and Texas State in the Armed Forces Bowl. The Owls missing their quarterback, a couple skill position guys. You know how college football is these days. I mean, you just don't know who's coming to the table as far as who's going to suit up. And Texas State, in turn, has taken some money here, up to 16-point favorites. Is Boomers, are they needing the Rice Owls to stay within this number? And what do you think about this game personally?
You said they play tomorrow. You sure it's not been played already? Because they think it has been. Yeah, opened like 11. So 11 up to 16, headed to 20. So, yeah, it's been that way the entire bowl season. Now, granted, some of these big moves have been going down, many of them, but this is one more. I mean, yeah, like you said, Rice's QB left, and they got a few other pieces out. And Texas State is a high-scoring team, and they got pretty much everyone intact. So all the money's been for Texas State. Not exactly the greatest game in the world to watch at 10 in the morning on a Friday, but the brave souls who battle these bowl games will do that. But yes, right now, Boomers is we're rooting for the Rice Owls, but you never know what happens in the last 2 or 3 hours of the betting cycle. We may get flipped.
How tricky is it, all of those unknowns, when it just comes to setting lines for these games? Are you even taking into consideration what lines are at other books, or are you removing that from the equation as you set your own, and then maybe you peer over and you see what other people are doing?
Yeah, that's always a part of the process, knowing what the market is. Ultimately, you need to worry about your own dollars and how what you made the game and how you want to end up on it. But yeah, the bull. I was the biggest bull fan in the history of the world. I used to take leads and bet real early in the cycle, and I quit all that the last couple of years because, like, you can make one good decision 2 weeks from the game, and then 7 days later you laid four, and now the game you can take two, and it's just over and over and over and over. These kids have no problem entering the portal. They have no problem opting out. I mean, it's just scary. I mean, it's standard procedure now. The agent gets in their head, the parent gets in their head, and it's bad. It's not good for football. It's not good for. It's certainly not good for booking, and betting is the handles down because of it. People just are waiting to the last second to make sure they know all parties involved, and thus there's less money in the coffers.
Yep, I hear you loud and clear on all fronts. By the way, 23 seconds left before halftime, 2nd and 6 for the Rebels of Ole Miss. They're deep in their own territory at their own 30-yard line, 21-12. Nick, just about a minute left here. Do you have a lineup at Boomers already on the one semifinal game that has come to fruition, Oregon and Indiana?
Yeah, what a great game. I sort of wish that was the national championship game. They're going to run back what they did earlier in Eugene. We opened Indiana 4-47. Haven't taken a real bet to talk about so far, but one hell of a game, that's for sure. I wish it was a different matchup. I would like to see those maybe meeting in the finals since they already met, but hey, we'll take what we got.
We'll continue with some college football, getting to some NFL, and who knows what else. We got, again, sports betting Hall of Famer Nick Bogdanovich hanging out here with us on In-Game Live Game Day. We will continue to keep an eye on all things Sugar Bowl as well. Ole Miss, 2nd and 6 at its own 30 right now, down by 9, about 30 seconds to go in that first half. Georgia letting 11 half. Stay with us.
The champagne pops. The clock strikes 12. But New Year's isn't won at midnight. It's won on the gridiron. Every snap, every number, every edge that matters. Don't just watch the ball drop. Watch the odds drop. College football playoff coverage. Live lines. Smart analysis. All New Year's Day. Only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there.
Like,
I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
In-game live game day here on SportsGrid. Ole Miss still driving, looking for some points before the break. We'll let you know if that happens. Oh, sounds not. Just going to the break, as a matter of fact. So we're still looking at 21-12 here. Georgia is leading Ole Miss. So Nick Bogdanovich, a sports betting Hall of Famer, hanging out here with us. Nick, Brady and I were talking earlier, and you can kind of, I don't want to say settle a debate because it's not like we were really getting into it, but we were hypothesizing what this looks like, assuming Georgia does win this game, and it's looking like that is going to happen, whatever the margin it is. Georgia likely will win this game and move on to the Fiesta Bowl and face Miami, who, of course, as we know, just upset Ohio State. There are no hypothetical lines for that game out just yet that I am seeing. So as a bookmaker, where do you suppose we're going to open at? And also, where do you think maybe we close?
That's a good question. I'm not as high on Miami as everyone else is right now. Everyone thinks they have them 3 over the 49ers right now. I mean, if you listen to these people on First Take and all this, it's the greatest squad of all time. They validated the committee's selection and yada yada yada. But they're a nice squad. Don't get me wrong. A nice offensive line, good defense. But I think Beck's average at best. And he's going to have to play two really good games for them to get it done. But I think at Georgia, 5.5 is probably a good spot to start that game. And assuming Georgia finishes the deal here and comes out relatively healthy and is a nice solid victory, I think Georgia like 5.5 would be fair.
Well, Adam, you win because he said 5.5. I said 3.5. So good on you, Mr. Kaufman. Let's get into the Friday slate. And maybe if there's one team you can count on without much, funny business going on as far as portals and transfers and opt-outs and stuff like that, it's a service academy, Nick, and that is the Navy midshipmen in the Liberty Bowl taking on Cincinnati tomorrow. And they're a decent-sized favorite. It's up to 7.5 in many spots. 7 probably the consensus number. Cincinnati will be missing a lot of players, but that's not the case for the service academy. Do you like Navy? Do you like the favorite in this one?
Yeah, that's the only side I'd look. I mean, Cincinnati's quarterback was very good. For him to opt out is a big blow. I don't think the second stringers played hardly at all. And Navy, when these teams take time off, 20, 25 days, they get a little rusty, get out of sorts. The Navy Academy kids don't. I mean, they have such a hard day every day of their life when they're at the academy. So they'll be ready to go. So, yeah, I've been riding service academies and the Bulls for the last 25 years, and it would only be Navy or nothing for me. Obviously, it's been bet up pretty good. Someone took all the 7.5 today, though, with Cincinnati. So it was either buyback on an original Navy position or someone actually likes Cincinnati. So we're not in too bad a shape with that game right now, but Navy or nothing for me.
Arizona and SMU pretty close to a pick'em in the Holiday Bowl. I don't know, side be damned. Should we just look toward the over? Because you're getting just north of 50, 51.5.
Yeah, it looks like a game that should go over. Been good two-way action on this. Arizona took the original money, like pick up to 2.5, and then a flurry of SMU money the last 24 hours, and now I see SMU favored in some spots. Boomers is still pick 'em, but yeah, two really good two-way action and two good teams. Arizona finished strong, and SMU was strong all year, so this is one of the better bowl games.
One more on the docket for Friday, Nick, and I think this is a pretty darn interesting game. Wake Forest and Mississippi State. We haven't seen either of these schools in a bowl game for a few years, and they both had pretty good seasons. Mississippi State disappointing, losing some tough ones, but they played a lot of teams really well. Texas, Tennessee, and they're a slight favorite here. What do you think on this one?
Yeah, no real opinion and not a whole lot of betting on this one yet. So hopefully tomorrow morning people get interested in this one because we don't very few dollars in the coffer on this one. Wake's playing in Charlotte, so they got a little bit of a home field situation there, but I have no real opinion on that game at all other than I hope some money gets bet tomorrow.
So with not a lot of betting on that game, again, the Duke's Mayo Bowl, what about the FCS Championship coming up on Monday between Illinois State and Montana State? I'm sure there are a lot of people, you got to be a college football diehard to be paying attention to that bracket and that tournament. Anybody betting this game?
100%. This is a great game. This is better than half the bowl games. Montana State, they beat their rival Montana to get in this one. Illinois State's won 3 road games in a row to get there. So it's weird. They play and then they take 2.5, 3 weeks off for this one. So they're all rested and healthy. They always play down in Frisco, Texas. We opened Montana State 10. It's up to 10.5. I think the dog's live in this one. Montana State's been playing all these home games in Cozy Bozeman. Illinois State's been out there on the road taking names. Now they get them on a neutral. So I like the Redbirds out of Normal, Illinois.
Nick, let's shift over to the pros, and we've got a couple of Saturday games that mean something. Week 18, the rest of the schedule feels a lot to me like these bowl games where you just don't know. You don't know who's playing, who cares about being there, yada, yada. Are you getting a lot of action on the Seahawks and the Niners and the Bucks and the Panthers?
100%. These are going to be 2 really big bet games, especially the Seattle one. We opened Frisco the favorite, and all the monies came in on Seattle. In fact, we're about the only 2 in the free world. Mostly everyone's 1.5 on Seattle, but we're at 2. Frisco 1 up in Seattle, so now that's usually a spot where the professionals like to play Seattle in this spot, and their defense is so much better than Frisco's. But I got to tell you, good luck trying to slow down that San Francisco offense right now. They're just hitting on all cylinders. Hopefully Big Trent's back at left tackle because this is one colossal. It's just such a big game. Getting the 1 seed is enormous. I can't tell you how important that is.
Nick Bogdanovich, once again, is a sports betting Hall of Famer. First timer on the program with us, and hopefully not the last. We have really enjoyed it, Nick. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you again soon.
Happy New Year, everyone.
The champagne pops. The clock strikes 12. But New Year's isn't won at midnight. It's won on the gridiron. Every snap, every number, every edge that matters. Don't just watch the ball drop. Watch the odds drop. College football playoff coverage. Live lines. Smart analysis. All New Year's Day. Only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there. Like, I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
All right, Brady, our thanks to Nick Bogdanovich, again, a sports betting Hall of Famer, who I found it interesting to say that the in-game market, he's, don't teach an old dog new tricks, basically. He's good with what he's been doing for decades, doesn't need to get involved in that market as well. But I know many of our listeners and viewers certainly enjoy it. And right now, you've got Georgia here in the Sugar Bowl college football playoff quarterfinal, laying right now 11.5. It's down from 12.5. 11.5 with this 9-point lead at the break against Ole Miss. 21-12. The total is now sub 60, just a bit, 59.5. Anything you would do in game?
Well, it's funny. First of all, you've been working with me long enough. You know I'm pretty much sides and totals, and I'm not even sure if I know what a prop market is just yet. And I'm still getting used to in-game wagering. I'm a kind of an old dinosaur as well, and Nick's got about 8 to 10 years on me. So, he's even more set in his ways than I am. But no, just kidding. I would kind of agree with Nick. I mean, we're talking to one of the best bookmakers in the world right there, and he's telling you he needs Ole Miss. And, this spread originally was 6 or 6.5 prior to kickoff. Now it's almost double that. I'd probably lean that direction. I think Georgia's going to get the victory, but this point spread may have gotten out of hand a little bit at 11.5. I'd probably take the dog to stay within that. I think Georgia, like I say, will win the game, but I'm not sure they'll win it by 12 points. As far as the total, I'd probably lean a little bit to the under. We saw a lot of scoring there in the second quarter. It really all came in the second quarter. I have a feeling we might slow down a little bit in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, listen, first downs are comparable, 13-11 in favor of Ole Miss, by the way. We told you they've been putting drives together. Third down efficiency, similar, 3 of 8 versus 3 of 6. The total yardage actually does favor the Rebels here in this one, 234 to 190. Comparable passing yards, rushing yards, penalties are a little bit more on the Georgia side. Really, the difference in this game, Brady, when it comes to the line ballooning as it has, is obviously that scoop and score, the fumble that led to that touchdown for Georgia. It's the only turnover we've seen in this game, and clearly it was costly. And the time of possession, by the way, is equal, damn near to the second, basically 15 minutes aside. So really, I would be inclined to agree with you. If I'm putting money anywhere, it's on the Ole Miss side, not to win, but the plus 11.5. I think you're getting an advantageous line. It's just a function of who, if anyone, on either side is going to screw up and whether that other team is able to capitalize.
I think it's a great observation there by you, Adam, and I wasn't even thinking that way. I was just kind of looking at the number, but you're exactly right. It's at 11.5, 12.5, whatever, only because of a turnover. Otherwise, really, you could argue that Ole Miss is winning the game. I go back to the Pittsburgh Steelers beating your New England Patriots. Why did they win that game? Because I believe it was 4 or 5 turnovers. That's something you have to look at in any handicapping. I think especially in NFL, you see, the Steelers beat the Patriots, and you go to the next week and you go, I'm going to bet the Steelers again. I'm going to bet against New England. Wait a minute. They won that game because there was 5 turnovers. So again, if you're trying to make a case for Georgia, you're like, wait a minute. The reason it's 11.5 is just because of 1 turnover. Other than that, there not much is going on here. And if we could predict turnovers, if we could predict who was going to win the turnover battle, sports betting might not exist because it would be too easy. You just have a hard time predicting turnovers. And so it is a little bit of an anomaly that, Georgia's an 11.5 point favorite just because of what we're talking about here. So, I'd have to play the Rebels plus the points. I don't think they'll win the game, but I think 11.5 is a little out of whack because of kind of one outlier play.
Probably says more about me than anything, Brady, but the Patriots are going to win their 14th game of the season this year, finish 14-3 in the regular season, and yet I still think about that Steelers game and turning the ball over 5 times, including twice inside their 5-yard line, or the 5-yard line on the other side for Pittsburgh. It's just, you can't do it. First it was losing week 1 against Ken Thompson's Raiders, like the only good win the Raiders have had all year in a year of few. And then obviously, then the Steelers with the 5 turnovers, and then you're up 21-0 against the Bills in an opportunity to clinch the AFC East, and you blow that. The Patriots should have had a 17-0 season. Let's call it what it is.
I don't know if I should have mentioned the word Patriots. I've opened up a can here, apparently.
Only because we've got about 30 seconds left in the segment. I felt like I had to get it out. We were together for 3.5, 4 hours, whatever it was yesterday. I'm not sure I mentioned the Patriots, maybe some Drake May talk. Maybe we'll do more Drake May talk, some MVP market. Get into that. Larry Hartenstein's going to join us from CBS Sports when we come on back.